Hello, and welcome to the next step in your journey to sewing mastery with the Sew What box. My name is Taylor Franz, and this month we will be making a beautiful weekender bag. Let's open our boxes and get started. Unpacking our box, we will find fabric pins, a sewing machine needle, thread, a zipper, pre-cut flannel fabric pieces, and canvas fabric pieces. First, we will focus on the longest pair of canvas pieces and set the other fabrics aside. Take these pieces to your ironing board and make sure the iron is heated and set to the cotton setting. Working with one of the long pieces, fold it in half, long edge to long edge, using the iron to hold the crease as you move the length of the piece. As you fold these pieces, make sure you are putting the right side of the fabric out. The right side is the side of the fabric that you want visible when your project is complete. This canvas may not have a difference in appearance from one side to the other. In that case, either side can be considered the right side of the fabric. Make sure the folded fabric lines up along the entire edge, and then repeat this process on the other long piece. Open an ironed piece. Fold one raw edge to the center line. Again, use the iron to hold the crease as you move the length of the piece. Repeat with the other raw edge. Now, fold the piece together along the original fold line, encasing the raw edges. Iron and pin in place along the double fold. Make sure, when pinning the fabrics, that you are pinning through all the layers of fabric. Also, make sure that your pins are placed perpendicular to the edge of the fabric. We also want the bobble on top of the pin to point towards the edge of the fabric. This will make it easier to pull these pins out later when we sew the fabric together. Pins are responsible for holding fabrics in place as you sew. If you skip this step and attempt to begin sewing, the fabric may be pulled in different directions, eliminating the chances of a clean finish on your project. Now it is time to head over to the sewing machine. Make sure that you have replaced your needle and correctly threaded your machine with the thread and needle supplied in your box. Your owner's manual or YouTube can be a great resource if you don't know how to complete these tasks. We will then take the test fabric that our pins came in and make sure that our sewing machine is stitching correctly and is on a straight stitch. As we run our pinned fabric through the sewing machine, we are going to align the right edge of our presser foot with the right edge of the fabric. To begin, we will place the fabric under the presser foot and then set the presser foot down on the fabric using the lever on your sewing machine. Make sure you have the needle past the edge of the fabric on the fabric. Otherwise, the fabric may bunch up as you start to sew. The number one rule of sewing on a sewing machine is to hold on to the tails of both the top and bottom thread as you start sewing. If you don't do this for the first couple of stitches, the thread could be sucked up into the machine and you would have to rethread your machine. We will take a few stitches forward and then stop. We will then back the machine up to tie a knot in our stitching. Do this by pressing the reverse button or lever on your machine, usually marked by a U-turn arrow. You can also find out how to reverse the direction of your stitch by checking your owner's manual or performing a Google search. Then continue our stitch down the fabric. Make sure you are keeping the presser foot against the edge of the fabric as well as taking out the pins in your fabric as you reach them. When you take the pins out, make sure you are stopping your machine and placing the loose pins in a secure location like a pin cushion. As we reach the edge of the seam, we will back the machine up and tie another knot in our stitch. We can then continue forward until the stitch is almost running off the edge of the fabric. We will then pick up our presser foot while at the same time making sure our needle is up out of the fabric. If the needle is not up out of the fabric, use the top knob on the right side of your sewing machine to move the needle out of the fabric. We can then pull the fabric from the machine and trim off all the tails of thread from our seam. Now we will stitch along the other long folded edge of the piece to add stability and symmetry to the strap. Repeat this process with your other pinned piece. Back at our workbench, we are going to find the printed half circle pieces and the pair of small canvas pieces. These will make the ends of our bag. Line up the flat edge of the half circle with one of the long edges of the canvas piece. With the right sides of the fabric facing each other, pin in place. Repeat these steps on the other piece. Time to head back to the sewing machine. We are going to sew along our pinned edges, backing up as we begin and end, just as we did previously. In order to finish these seams and guard against the raw edges unraveling with use, we are going to finish the seam with a zigzag stitch. Set your machine to a wide zigzag stitch pattern. Lining the raw edge up with the right edge of the opening in your presser foot, sew along the seam. You do not need to stitch backwards while finishing the edge of the seam. Back at the ironing board, press the finished seam toward the canvas part of the piece. At our workbench, we are going to find our last pair of Aztec flannel pieces and the pair of skinny canvas pieces. These will be the sides of our weekender bag. Line up the long edge of the flannel piece with the long edge of a canvas piece, right sides of the fabrics together, and pin it in place. Let's take these pinned pieces over to our sewing machine and stitch them together. Make sure your machine is set back to a straight stitch. We will then finish the edges with a zigzag pattern. Back at our ironing board, these seams will be pressed towards the canvas. Now we are going to attach the straps to the sides of the bag. With the right sides of the pieces facing up on the workbench, pin the ends of your straps to the bottom of the canvas, 5.5 inches from the sides of the piece. Next, measure 5.5 inches in from the edge of the piece along the center seam of our side piece and pin the strap in place at this point as well. Do this again 3.5 inches above the seam. Form the strap into a U shape and repeat with the same measurements on the other side of the strap. Do this with both strap pieces. At the sewing machine, we will attach the straps by sewing along the strap stitching. When you reach the last pin, stop sewing. Use the knob on the right side of your sewing machine to put the needle all the way down into your fabric. Lift your presser foot and pivot the fabric. Stitch until you reach the strap's other stitching line. Then ensure the needle is down and pivot your fabric again. Continue stitching along this edge of the strap in the direction of where you started. When you have reached the edge and trimmed thread tails, repeat on all 4 pinned strap ends. workbench, we are going to pin the sides of our bag to the only remaining canvas piece. Match the long sides of the canvas pieces, right sides together, and pin. Sew along these edges. We will then finish the raw edges of these seams with a wide zigzag stitch. While we are here with the zigzag stitch pattern, let's finish the top 2 raw edges of our flannel bag sides as well. At the ironing board, press these seams towards the middle bottom piece of fabric. Our next step is zipper installation. Line your zipper up on the right side of the top of one side of your bag, 1/2 of an inch from the raw edge. Make sure to position the zipper as demonstrated here and line up the bottom zipper stop on the edge of the fabric. Carefully pin the zipper in place. You may need to angle the pins slightly to ensure that the shaft both enters and exits on the zipper tape. This will give the most stability while sewing. Most sewing machines allow us to move the position of our needle. If yours does not, sew this next step with the needle in its standard position. We are not going to use a zipper foot. Instead, move your needle to the furthest left position and line the left side of the presser foot up against the zipper teeth in the center of the zipper. All machines are different when it comes to moving the needle position. Please consult your manual or perform a Google search on your sewing machine model. Back at the ironing board, we are going to iron this flat so that the zipper will become invisible. With the right side facing up, fold so the crease in the fabric follows the zipper teeth. Use your iron to hold the crease. Then pin in place. At our sewing machine, move your needle back to its original position. Line the right side of the presser foot up with the fold and sew along the fold. Now we are going to repeat these steps with the other side of the zipper. With the zipper and bag right side up on the workbench, fold the loose edge of the bag up to meet the zipper. Flip over and pin in place as before, lining up the zipper stop with the edge of the fabric and the zipper tape 1/2 of an inch away from the zigzagged edge. At your sewing machine, move your needle to the left position again and sew the zipper in place. To iron this side of the zipper, we must unzip the zipper and flip the bag right side out. Then, fold and iron as before, covering the zipper teeth. Pin this fold in place and then head back to your sewing machine. Moving our needle back to the original setting, we are going to sew along the fold. This will be easiest if you leave the zipper all the way unzipped. Back at our workstation, we are going to attach the ends to our weekender bag. To begin, turn the main part of the bag inside out. Pin an end piece to one end of this tube. Start by matching the corners of the end piece with the seams that connect the side pieces to the bottom of the bag. These corners will overlap about 1/4 of an inch. Make sure that the wrong side of the end piece is facing out. Next, match the seam lines and pin in place. Continue pinning until the entire end is pinned. Repeat these steps with both ends of the bag. Make sure that the open ends of the zipper meet in the middle of the half circle as you are pinning. Once this is ensured, you can trim the excess length off of these ends of the zipper. At your sewing machine, carefully situate the pinned seam under your presser foot. Begin sewing along the flat edge, remembering to back up a few stitches as you begin. Once you reach the corner, do not run the stitch to the edge of the fabric. Continue the stitch until the edge of the presser foot facing you is lined up with the edge of the fabric facing you. The distance from the needle to both the closest edges should be approximately equal. Once you have accomplished this, use the knob on the side of your sewing machine to lower the needle into the fabric to hold the fabric in place. We will then pick up the presser foot and, with the needle acting as an anchor, pivot the fabric around the needle. The right edge of the foot should now be aligned with the new unstitched edge. Put the foot down and start sewing the edge just like before. Since this edge is a curved seam, we will need to make sure we are steering as we sew by moving the fabric as it feeds into the sewing machine. Also, make sure that you readjust the bag fabric as you sew around the curve to ensure that no wrinkles get sewn. When you reach the zipper, continue sewing along the seam. Slow down to give the needle time to slide past the zipper teeth as it goes through the fabric. When you reach the corner that you started on, reverse stitch and then pull away from the machine. Repeat these steps on the other end of the bag. Finally, finish the raw edges of these seams with the zigzag stitch. When you get to the zipper, it is a good idea to skip over it. This way, you won't break the needle on the metal zipper stop. When finished, it is time to turn your weekender bag right side out. And there you have it, a nice roomy weekender bag, perfect for your next trip to the gym or weekend getaway. Make sure you share your creations with us here at TaylorMade Tailoring using the hashtag SewWhatBox.